Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. And a very good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the lunch on the third and final day of the 8th World Islamic Economic Forum here in Johor Bahru. We do hope that you've had a good session this morning. And once again this afternoon, we have a distinguished speaker to make a presentation, and we will only serve lunch after the presentation by the speaker. So without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to call upon Mr. Salahuddin Qasim Han, a member of the International Advisory Panel of the World Islamic Economic Forum Foundation, to introduce our guest speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Salahuddin Qasim Han.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great privilege to introduce to you Dr. George Hara, who has come to the WIEF with the Japanese delegation, and this is the first delegation from Japan. So a big round of applause for our Japanese friends. Dr. George Hara is the Group Chairman of DEFTA Partners, Chairman of the Board, Alliance Forum Foundation, Japan, Senior Advisor, Ministry of Finance between 2005 to 2010, Prime Minister's Special Advisory Member on the Government Tax Panel up to 2008, and Intergovernmental Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to the United Nations up to 2010. In 1984, George Hara founded the DEFTA Partners and became a partner at SL Partners in 1990. Hara helped to create and manage IT firms as chairman, board member of companies such as Boland, the second largest PC software maker, Picturetel, teleconferencing, Oplus Technologies merged with Intel in 2005, Broadware, which merged with Cisco in 2007, and Transitive Technology merged with IBM in 2008, and Fortinet Nasdaq IPO in 2009. While creating ventures in advanced nations, Dr. Hara founded DEFTA Developing Holdings to bring cost-effective information infrastructure technologies to less developed countries in Asia and Africa through private-public partnership initiatives. In the public sector, Dr. Hara served as chairman of the Alliance Forum Foundation, an international organization in special consultative status with the United Nations Economic and Social Council. He has served on the board of the San Francisco Opera, San Francisco Zoo, University of San Francisco, Tokyo Foundation, and Hara Research, which offers fellowship to interdisciplinary activities between life and computer science. Dr. Hara was a United Nations Fellow and holds LLB degree from Kyoto University, Japan, and a Master's of Science degree from the Graduate School of Engineering at Stanford University. Apart from his business corporate activities, Dr. Hara has another part of his activities, which is he's helping to set up a social fund for less developed countries like Cambodia, Laos, and Bangladesh, with JICA, which is the Japanese government aid agency. And I would like to also mention that he set up the first miniature railway museum in Yokohama, spending nearly $15 to $20 million. This houses over 6,000 miniature trains. So like the Legoland here in Johor Bahru, if you ever visit Yokohama, you must visit Dr. Hara's train museum. With these words, I leave the floor to you, Dr. Hara. I'm sure you'll give a very exciting presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Salahuddin. Hello? Mr. Salahuddin Kasumu-kan, thank you very much for your kind introduction for me. I'm George Hara. I came from Japan. As he introduced, I led the Japanese first delegation to WIEF. I am discussing with my colleagues and delegation member to increase the number of the delegation for next year, which will comprise of the major sectors of the Japanese industries and the government sector of Japan. We have two members in delegations. One is Mr. Tanji. He's a prominent banker. Another one is Dr. Kubo. He is a MD, PhD, and prominent stem cell researchers and medical doctor. I think after 2 days experience, we found out many commonalities between Islamic nation and Japan. First thing is the generosity to other people. And the second part, as many people discuss about Islamic banking, it's a nice way to alleviate the poverties. Although many Islamic nations exist, the most important goal for next decade is to create a thick layer of the middle class. This is probably the most important. The middle class is the most important asset for any country, which stabilizes the nation and gives the prosperity to the businesses. I think in this area, Japan can contribute to work together with our counterpart of the Islamic nations. I think I would like to share today one important experience. In October, the Japan hosted the IMF and World Bank, the annual meetings. Since I have been serving as a senior advisor to the Ministry of Finance for many years, I met the finance ministers and governors of the central banks from around the world. We all discussed about the financial crises, but we didn't discuss about the roots of the cause of the financial crises. You remember the financial crisis in 2008. Many people said it's once in every 100 years of crises. However, it happened actually in almost every year. I think this is going to happen next year, year after, if we do nothing. What is the cause? Discussion about the macroeconomics and the systemic issues have been discussed widely. But real causes is coming from the capitalism. Japan is a capitalist country, but the capitalism itself became too extreme. Today's capitalism is so-called shareholder-centric capitalism. As you know, shareholders, they say, we own the companies. Therefore, the CEO and the board of the directors have to maximize shareholder values. They care only about themselves. If this is right, to maximize the shareholder values, that is stock price and amount of dividend, in a shorter time, that means any long-term investment which involves in research and development is no longer be justified as a good business model. This is the fundamental problems that entire world is facing today. I think collaboration between the Islamic nation and Japan can stop it. How we can do it? The momentum players such as hedge fund And these people are the people who create the financial crises. Unfortunately, all the systems, such as taxations or accounting systems or corporate governance, are all now designed to maximize the short-term shareholders. So we should change. As a part of the Japanese, the government and private sector, the leading communities, I stepped up and would like to create some kind of incentives for the long-term investors in the area of the taxations and also accounting systems. Together with the Ministry of Finance of Japan and the sectors of Japan, we are now very seriously discussing about how to make the momentum player behave well. This is very important. In next 2 or 3 years, I'd like to bring more the decision makers from Japan to discuss with our counterpart in Islamic nations to create some kind of a legal framework to regulate, but to regulate the short-term players, but encourage the long-term players. This is I want to share with all of you today. Finally, I would like to show 1 or 2 examples that I have already started as a real project in Islamic nation, that is Bangladesh. In 2005, I created a company by the name of BlackNet. It's a joint venture between my company, DEFTA Partners, and BLACK. The BLACK, as all of you know, is Bangladesh Rural Advancement Committee. And this company is owned by 40% of the company is owned by the BLACK. That means when we make a profit, the 40% of the profit is going to go to the BLACK. BLACK has been very active in promoting an advancement in the rural communities in education area and healthcare areas. So these monies, and also BLACK is an NGO. It doesn't have any shareholders. So entire proceeds, they allocated for the NGO, that is BLACK, can be utilized for educational and healthcare purposes. This is a new way to set up the companies. To set up the company for the profit, they allocate a decent amount of the profit for the social purposes. Today, this is one of the very few examples, but after we accomplished the real success case in BlackNet in telecommunication field, we are replicating this model in energy sectors and the food sectors and many other sectors in Bangladesh. And many of the African and other Asian nations watched what we are doing in Bangladesh. So 3 weeks ago, I was invited by the heads of the states of the African nations. They wanted to learn how they can create a similar model for their countries. They are interested in pursuing this model instead of just receiving the foreign aids from the industrialized nations. So I said, to stop receiving the foreign aids from developed nations, it should be the goal for those countries. Through the Alliance Forum Foundations, we do the first to alleviate the malnutrition. We are planning to achieve 0 infant mortality rate caused by malnutrition in a certain district in Zambia. It's in Africa. Once kids can be survived to the 5 years old, they can be grown to the adult, but without education, they become young. So next step, the education in healthcare is very important. After receiving the education, the people can become the adult, but finding a job is very difficult in any country today. Educated people without a job become terrorists. It's very difficult. So the third important mission is to provide empowerment, self-reliance. Here, the microfinance, that is also probably created by the culture and tradition of the Islamic finance, and started by two founding fathers, by Mohammed Yunus and Fidel Abed, both from Bangladesh. So I decided to create some kind of microfinance bankers from Japan, US, and many other countries. So set up, together with them, the short-term microfinance training program in Dhaka, in Bangladesh, in 2009. So far, we have 150 graduates. At the same time, I have been working together with the Ministry of Finance and finance ministers and governors of central banks in many developing countries to design new legal framework for the microfinance. Many African nations, Asia and Latin America, used to be the colony of the European nations. The colonial masters, they brought the Banking Act, but these Banking Acts are not designed for the people in those countries. This Banking Act simply makes rich people richer. We have to create some kind of legal framework for the banks to empower the poor sector of the people, to make them the middle class. So this is I'm working on with the many Ministry of the Finance in developing countries. Thanks to the knowledge and experience from the Dr. Yunus and Dr. Abed. So Islamic finance also can be universalized. I'd like to explore more about these opportunities together with our counterpart bankers in the Islamic nations. I think the speech should be shorter before lunch. So let me conclude. Thank you very much for us participating in this WIEF meeting. We will come together next year. Thank you.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a big hand to His Excellency Mr. George Hara for the special presentation. And obviously, on behalf of the World Islamic Economic Forum, we look forward to receiving a bigger Japanese delegation from next year onwards. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, a big hand to our guest speaker.